This is Cruise Control.
Your on-air automotive magazine with co-hosts Fred Staub and Les Jackson. Everything you need to know about new and used cars. Industry news. We'll fix or repair your car on the air. Fasten your seatbelts and let us take the wheel. Now, your ride is about to begin. Because you're on Cruise Control. Cruise Control. Cruise Control.
And welcome to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Hello, everyone. I'm Fred Staub. We've got a great hour of automotive news and information for you. Les Jackson will be along in just a little bit. But today, we're going to talk about dependability. Dependability. It's what new vehicle buyers want, and we have the latest J.D. Power Vehicle Dependability Study with studies and information from top to bottom. And it's great information if you're going out to buy a vehicle because you'll see what other buyers are experiencing when they buy a new vehicle. So we'll break that down for you. A lot of great information there. And then Kia reveals its turbocharged MPV. This was the Chicago Auto Show this week, and a lot of reveals. We'll be going through a number of them, but this is their turbocharged hybrid MPV, i.e. minivan, that's designed to look like an SUV. We'll talk about that. And it's got one of the best innovations, I think, to come along in a long while. It solves a problem that you've probably experienced. I know I have. Then, coming up, we're going to ask the question, is Mr. Bean killing electric cars? Well, one group says he's to blame because he's not a big electric car fan, actually, after buying one. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll tell you why Volkswagen won't let you reserve the ID Buzz. Of course, the ID Buzz is the Volkswagen van, that two-tone van that will be making a big comeback as an electric vehicle, a three-row electric vehicle here in the U.S. And well, you're not going to be able to reserve one, as has become common practice with a lot of electric vehicles. Plus, we'll introduce you to the fastest street-legal production car you can own. Of course, you'll have to spend a lot of money for it, but this vehicle is capable of over 300 miles an hour, and you can put some license plates on it. So if that's something you're looking for, you want to stay tuned to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine, because we've got that and a whole lot more when we get rolling on this edition of Cruise Control Radio. And as I mentioned, Chicago Auto Show going on, a lot of new vehicles from Mini, from Kia, from Lincoln. So we're going to go through all of those and bring you up to date on what will be coming out to the market. Of course, lately, seems like vehicles are announced, and it might take a year or even two to see them. But at least you'll be up to date on what will be heading out into the dealers' lots at some point in the next couple of years. Stay tuned to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. I'm Fred Staub. He is Les Jackson. We will be right back, and we are just getting started, and we've got plenty of information coming up. That J.D. Power Dependability Study, which are the most dependable new vehicles. You won't want to miss it. Stay tuned.
Cruise Control.
Hey, welcome back to Cruise Control. This is your on-air automotive magazine. Hey, Fred.
Hey, Les. A little
We,
bit. I'm glad you caught up to the cruise control van. I put that
I
rope
did.
out
Well,
the back.
I was unloading some parts for the engine block, which are going to help me lift later.
Excellent. That's perfect timing for me.
Oh, absolutely. You know, the trick is when you need somebody to help you do something heavy, you don't warn them ahead of time. You
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
hey, are you free for a couple of minutes?
yeah.
Anyway, so what about dependability of vehicles?
Yeah, it's not good news really from JD
No, it's
Power.
not.
I mean, it's great information.
Yeah.
But overall, dependability on vehicles is decreasing. And it is lower dependability after 3 years of ownership compared to previous 3 year periods. So
Yeah.
not a good trend. Trending downward, as they would say, right?
Yes, it is. However, in defense of the cars,
Yeah.
most of the dependability, I think, and I think JD Power kind of sums it up, is the infotainment systems. People are just not satisfied. I guess that's a word to use for it.
Yeah. Now we can get into this a lot. By the way, this is the 35th year of the study, and it covers 184 specific problem areas across the major vehicle categories,
Right.
including climate, driving assistance, driving experience, feature controlled displays, infotainment, interior, powertrain, and seats. Now, as you perfectly pointed out, 35 years ago, we did not really have infotainment unless you include an AM,
No.
FM radio. And we did not really have driver assistance unless you consider it brakes.
Yeah. Well, we had ABS, you know, for some cars.
And even climate control was those cable controlled slider controls. You did not have individual climate control unless maybe you had a Cadillac, which I believe had something, an early version of that where you could set the temperature. But since cars have gotten a lot more complex, I think, you know, that's what's led to these numbers. Now, infotainment up first. Continue to plague people. You know, everyone, the internet, the automotive world erupted when GM said we're globally dropping Android Auto and Apple CarPlay because we think they're distracting. We think they're hard to hook up. You and I theorized one of the reasons is they want to get better JD Power numbers. But interestingly, that is the first item on the JD Power dependability study. Connectivity issues with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay is a top problem, followed by voice recognition. Now,
Yeah.
I've seen big improvements in this in our press cars, especially wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, where I set it up and I forget it and I can have my phone in my pocket and there's the map and it seems to work. But I can see there's multiple steps that people might get tripped up by it. And maybe
Well,
it's
yep.
their phone's fault too. Maybe their phone
Well,
isn't
it
up to date.
is. It is, but also a lot of people bought their vehicles with built-in navigation systems, and you know how that is. With some of them are really simple to use, most of them aren't. Most of them have strange uh, menus to go through, and they're not terribly well updated. And I think what happens is when people depend so much on their own vehicles' systems, the infotainment. I don't care about the entertainment. That's your sound system, but the information. Everybody wants to know. You know everything. You know what's their mileage, how are their tires doing, and And I just think people aren't. I hear it all the time from neighbors that, hey, how do I really make use of this screen efficiently? And
Right.
and I tell them, read the owner's manual, which they don't do it. So I think people are just kind of overwhelmed by
I,
everything.
I think so. They don't read the owner's manual. There's a lot of menus. There's a lot of things to go
Yep.
through, and we're going to talk about that. Some of it is driver assistance, like lane keeping and things like
Yeah.
that. We'll talk about that next as it relates to the JD Power Dependability Study. I'm Fred Staub. He's Les Jackson. We will be right back with Cruise Control.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Fred Staub and Les Jackson, Mr. Dependable. That's what we're talking about. Dependability study, JD Power. We told you that the number one thing is infotainment systems, getting their phone hooked up. Some of that might change with Google built in, where it's on all the time. I'm not quite sure how that works with data. Do you have to pay for that constantly, since basically it comes on every time you fire up the car? I'm not sure. I don't know. Do you know that? It's always there.
No.
It's always there.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. But anyway, the next biggest thing that annoys people is driver assistance alerts. So that's your seat buzzing or your or a ding or a flashing light, lane keeping, that type of thing. And I think people just don't understand them, basically, and they might find them distracting. Now, you
Well,
wouldn't. As a pilot, that's what pilots do. They have tones going off in their head all the time, right?
you start worrying when you don't have things
Right.
going off. But I think the biggest, all I hear constantly from everybody I talk to is they can't stand the start stop.
Yes.
And they say, how do I turn it off? Well, there's a button on your dash that looks like a little circle. And, most vehicles have that. Otherwise, go into your system and you can turn it off. But to then fill out the surveys and say that you're disappointed with the car, I don't think is very fair.
Yeah. I know I recently had a Subaru Crosstrek, and I like the fact that, yes, you can turn it off, and yes, when you fire up the vehicle again, it turns on again.
Back
But
on, right?
it also gave you an option, if you read the owner's manual, which I didn't, but I found it right away, that you can turn it off in the infotainment system or the control system, and that way it just won't come on until you turn that button on again.
Right.
So,
Right.
but a lot of people probably don't read that and say, "Oh, I can shut this off on a more permanent basis," as opposed to having to press the button each time.
Yeah.
Do you shut
So
it off? I do sometimes.
I not that often, but I sometimes if I'm in traffic or something like that, I'll shut it off because I just am tired of the engine shutting down, especially in warm weather,
Right.
and coming back on. So that and blind spot detection. People, for some reason, don't they get annoyed with blind spot, which is saving your life.
Yeah.
But
Or at least the sheet metal on the side of your car.
yeah.
So,
Again, and some of these systems you can turn off, but it's there to help you not make mistakes.
right. Right. I think it comes down to understanding it more.
Right.
Maybe the dealers are not doing a good enough job of explaining it, saying this is what this is telling
Nope.
you. We recommend you leave it on, but you can turn it off if you want. You know,
Right.
Electrified vehicles. This is also from the J.D. Power dependability study. Electrified vehicles are more problematic than others. Owners of battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid vehicles experience more problems than owners of gas-powered and hybrid vehicles. And it doesn't really say why. They just say
It doesn't.
they experience more problems.
Well, the one thing that it says about battery electrics is that tires are a problem, but you should expect that because your battery electric weighs 6,000 pounds or
Right.
more.
Right. Talk to a Class 8 tractor trailer driver. They'll tell you
Right.
what wears out tires. It's weight.
Yeah, or a pickup truck driver.
Yeah.
They wear out.
Yeah. More weight, more gravity, more rubber wear. Yeah. Maybe people need something that's a lot less complex. I enjoy the complexity. I enjoy being able to, go through the menus and tweak it a little bit. And, I am more annoyed. What gets me annoyed on cars, I don't like the headlights staying on once I get out of the vehicle. I don't really see the need to. I think there's too many chimes, and especially on
Yeah,
large
okay.
SUVs and pings, and
Yes,
I want to
really
be
don't like
discreet.
that.
I want to be discreet. I don't want to be putting on a light show with flashing
Right.
lights and pings and dings and yeah.
And I hate it. I hate it when the vehicle he beeps the horn when you hit the lock on the
Right.
key fob. I hate that.
Now, most of
Um,
that on most vehicles can be defeated.
right.
So,
But
but you have
but
to read the
still,
owner's manual to do that.
well, that's exactly right. But
Yeah.
but you and I it's like you and I have experienced all of these models and all of these manufacturers, and we're way, way, way more just practiced with these things than the average person will be in, probably years.
Yes. Yes.
So to us, it seems kind of simple, no big deal. But I don't really understand the attitude. Another attitude that people have is with, especially with Subaru eyesight. They don't like using the system. Most of these you have to turn on in some way, usually by using the intelligent cruise control. But why wouldn't you use the system?
I don't know. It's a great system. I don't understand. I mean, if it can warn me that I better stop quickly or actually take over if I didn't do it,
Yeah.
that can mean a much better weekend than a weekend where you're getting towed to the
Yeah.
shop and your car's getting totaled. So, um,
Or carried to the hospital.
yeah, exactly. Well, let's talk about some of the most dependable vehicles. This is the J.D. Power Dependability Study. Toyota wins the most segment awards
Yep.
as the most received by any automaker since 2017. They had 10 awards. And the most improved brands were Porsche, Mercedes, which I thought has always been a difficult car to use, Mercedes, and Toyota. Well, they kind of cleaned up. Toyota ranks highest in the mass market segment with a score of 147 problems
Yep.
per 100. Buick has 149 problems per 100, ranks second, and Chevrolet has 174 problems per 100, and Mini 174 problems per minute. They rank third in a tie. So some of the big market brands, top market brands, are doing pretty well, aren't they?
Well, they are. And again, it was no surprise that Lexus and Toyota are the highest. I always am reminded about our friend Vern Parker's comment to me, probably 25 years ago. We were sitting around having drinks at some event, and he said, "It doesn't matter what you rate some other vehicle, you won't escape the fact that Toyota screws their cars together better than anybody else does."
Yeah, they do.
Uh, they do.
They're designed to
It-
last a long time.
yeah. You can't say they don't.
It's kind of bolted onto their company's approach. So
Right.
it really is noticeable, and it shows out in things like this J.D. Power U.S. Vehicle Dependability Study. When we come back, we'll put a button on this, tell you the worst of the list. We told you the best were Toyota, Buick, Chevrolet, and Mini, but then there's some at the bottom. So we'll talk about those
Yep.
when we come back on Cruise Control.
Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, where we're going to finish this discussion on the most reliable and the most unreliable
From
vehicles.
JD Power. Yep.
JD Power. This is we do this every year for sure. Personally, I was a little bit surprised that Buick was so high.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that Cadillac is less high. They're average.
Yeah, they're right below average. Steady average
a whole
was
bunch
on
of yeah.
problems
bunch of
per
averages.
100 vehicles. So
Right.
the steady
And then you
average
get-
is about 190.
Right. And this can be any kind of problem. It can be a major problem like a leak,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be a door lock doesn't latch properly or a window doesn't quite, close properly. It could be trivial,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still a flaw
problem.
in something that's averaging $47,000. So,
Right.
but down at the bottom, yeah, two of them don't surprise either one of us, and that's Tesla and Chrysler.
Yeah, Tesla never provides full
No.
documentation, so they're kind of like grayed out at the bottom with 252 problems per 100. Remember, the study average is
Right.
190 problems per 100 vehicles, but they don't provide data.
No, I'm quite sure that there are good reasons that they don't provide data because we hear about an awful lot of horror stories.
Yeah.
Chrysler, as a brand, I think the Pacifica is very good, but
Yeah, it is. But it
some of the other products. Now, Audi surprises me, 275.
Yep. Land Rover, not so much. They are
Always troublesome.
Volkswagen's a bit of a surprise, though, with
Yeah.
267 problems per 100. Once again, the average is 190. I don't know why that is. Really?
Yeah, I've thought, well, the last 10 years or so, Volkswagen has been kind of reliable. I'm surprised they've lost that some. Lincoln, kind of where they've been
Mm-hmm.
at 251. Volvo,
Mm-hmm.
nice, really good cars.
Yeah, beautiful.
But and what this tells you is that if you buy one of these, it's not that they're unreliable, but if you buy one of these and you're going to have to go to the dealer for whatever reason, you want to buy a brand that a dealer is pretty close by, reasonably close by.
It's just another thing to think about when you buy a vehicle. Just
Sure.
another piece of data. Yeah. And then Ford 239. You compare that to Chevrolet at
Yeah.
174. That's a big
Big.
gap.
Big difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Surprising.
Interesting. Design of their vehicles. What do you think? Or is it just generally quality?
I think it may be general quality control.
Yeah.
And
Well-
it's tough because when we drive these, sometimes we can feel that they don't seem to be well put together, but that's kind of rare.
Yeah. And I have not experienced that with Ford products. They seem fine, but we're experiencing a top of the line vehicle that
That's
maybe
right. Well,
has
I
less than
remember
5,000 miles on it,
Yeah, I remember back in the 90s, I had a Mercedes S-Class, and I got in it and pulled on the handle on the door panel to close the door, and the whole door panel came off in my hand. So
That's excellent.
It happens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is the J.D. Power 2024 U.S. Vehicle Dependability Study. Check it out if you want. We'll post it up on our Facebook page or Cruise Control Facebook page because it's great information if you're looking to buy a vehicle. Now, our next manufacturer, Kia, came in with less problems per average. Once again, average was about 190. They came in with 187, so that's not bad. But it was the Chicago Auto Show, and Kia introduced their new Carnival. Now, remember, the Carnival is an MPV minivan, and it is designed to look like an SUV. But they did a very smart thing by bringing out a turbocharged hybrid version of this. And that is good news. They also brought out something, Les, that I don't know why other manufacturers have not done. Lighted seatbelt buckles so you can find them at night. Isn't that smart? I thought that's the biggest takeaway here.
That is really smart, and that is a constant complaint. I'm sure your wife and my wife are the same.
Yeah.
They constantly complain because you're not used to the car, and where's the damn
It's buried.
buckle go?
It's buried in the seat.
And we have the same complaint. You just to just have it lit. What a great idea.
Yeah. Now, it is there was some quote on the internet about someone said just buy the D minivan. That's what you need. But Kia's taken an interesting approach here. They've tried to make a minivan look more like an SUV. I'm not sure how that will work with this, and they've had this out for a few years. It does look like an SUV if you look at it quickly, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, you do have the sliding doors, which are a great thing on a minivan. You and I like minivans. They make sense if you're trying to move people in and out. But the fact that this has that 287 horsepower turbocharged hybrid drivetrain is a big thing. I think that makes sense, and to play in this world, it is important to have that. Of course, you got the Pacifica hybrid and the offerings from Toyota and others, and I think this makes it very competitive, especially the lighted seatbelts too.
It's the first performance.
All right, I think we lost Les there. It is the first performance MPV vehicle that I have seen, and I think it's great. I really do. I think it is certainly. I think it could ignite sales of this vehicle. I really do. I think it has, and you don't see a lot of them out there. But they are a pretty useful vehicle for sure. They are a pretty useful vehicle for sure. Hey, let's keep going. And I definitely, when Les comes back to join us, I want to get his take on this. But, of course, Mr. Bean, many people recognize Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson, who is a car guy and a longtime actor. Remember the Mr. Bean character. But he is a car guy. He famously had his McLaren that he wrecked and sent back to the factory, and they had rebuilt. Apparently, he is being called out and blamed for poor electric vehicle sales because he wrote about it as sort of an op-ed piece where he had bought an EV. I don't even believe he mentioned what EV he bought. But he felt like he was a little bit oversold, that he felt it was kind of soulless. He felt it was just that he kind of was a little bit duped by it. And he wrote about his experiences in an op-ed. And he was being called out by everyone from environmental groups, which you expect, to the government for being responsible for poor electric sales. The guy has an opinion about his electric car. He's sharing it. I just don't think, that he is responsible personally for electric vehicle sales tanking. And I think it's ridiculous for people to call him out for this. He bought something. He's sharing his experience. It may not be your experience, but I just found it funny that he was called out for that type of thing, and it was not it can't be his fault. I don't think so. Hey, when we come back, plenty more cruise control, so stay tuned. We'll talk about the VW ID Buzz. Plus, we'll introduce you to the fastest street legal car you can buy. Stay tuned.
Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Fred Staub and Les Jackson with you. The ID Buzz. This is a most anticipated vehicle from VW. Of course, it's going to be a 3-row in the U.S., all-electric vehicle. And I actually saw one of these in Europe. I was in Bath, England, and it was parked in a very tight parking space. I remember it must have been an inch on either side of it. I don't even know how the person got out. They must have crawled to the back and went out the back of it. But it was in a yellow and a white two-tone type of arrangement. What's become the norm in high demand vehicles, people with a pent-up demand for these things, is you could reserve one by putting down several $1,000s. This Tesla has kind of started that in the automotive industry where you put in a reservation, but we've seen it with Z06 Corvettes and other high interest vehicles. But speaking to Motor Trend at the Chicago Auto Show, VW President and CEO Pablo Dicey said the company is anticipating the demand for ID Buzz to be high, and because of that demand, there will be more than enough dealer supplies of the ID Buzz, but they won't be accepting any reservations because that has been trouble in the past. And, he says he's trying to avoid also dealers doing markups. They're discouraging them from doing markups, but that big, massive markups are coming on these vehicles, because if they get an allocation of 2 or 3 of them, and even though people have not put in reservations and you have 100 people come in and they want it, guess what's going to happen? They'll say, well, I'm going to tack 50 grand onto the price of that. Who wants it bad enough, which is not illegal, but it's distasteful. So my view is wait for it, because all these things that everyone wants and, oh my gosh, we can't get to it, and okay, I'll spend twice the price of it, eventually it gets worked out. Case in point, we're going to talk about the Ford Maverick. They've just upped production, so eventually you'll be able to go in and there'll be a few Mavericks sitting on the dealer's lot. And if you don't like that one, there'll be some more sitting on another dealer's lot. And then, eventually you'll be able to order one and it will be just fine. And you'll wait a little bit, but you'll get it and you'll pay at the sticker price or maybe even a little below it. But I unfortunately think big markups will be the norm on this vehicle. Let's talk about another vehicle completely different than the ID Buzz. Have you ever wondered what is the fastest vehicle you can own that is street legal? And in this case, it happens to be the Koenigsegg Absolute. This vehicle is capable. I'm sorry. It's the Koenigsegg Jesko Absolute. It's completely street legal. You can put plates on this thing, but it is capable theoretically of 330 miles an hour. Get caught doing that on the street, I don't know what they would do to you. They'd certainly arrest you. You might exceed the limits of what they could charge you as far as a fine, but I believe you would certainly be arrested. Think about that. But what this car is going to go for is a record. You've heard of 0 to 60 to 0, right, where it tests both braking and acceleration. This is going for a different record. 0 to 249 miles an hour and back down to 0. The problem is they need to find a road that can handle it in Switzerland and in Sweden, I should say. And they believe they have a runway that is 2 miles long that could give them enough time to go from 0 to 249 miles an hour to 0. But imagine the price of this thing. Well, I believe it is about $3 million. But you will certainly have a very capable vehicle that will accelerate. You won't be disappointed with the acceleration. Let's just say that. Gotta be one of the most exotic vehicles, and to have that capability of that kind of speed, basically as fast, if not faster, than a top fuel dragster, and basically be able to put license plates on it. It has the look of a Le Mans racer, for sure. It has the look of a Le Mans racer, and it's just incredible. But $3 million, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So we'll I don't know if we will have an at the wheel review of that anytime soon, but it is certainly impressive. I'll tell you what else is impressive. Toyota. We were talking about Toyota a while ago doing very well in the J.D. Power dependability study, but they've also announced that they are bringing battery electric vehicle production to Kentucky. $1.3 billion investment, and this is going to be in Georgetown, Kentucky, a flagship facility for Kentucky. Electrification efforts include the assembly of the all-new 3-row battery electric SUV for the U.S. market. The project will bring in the plant's total investment to nearly $10 billion and reinforces Toyota's commitment to high-quality vehicles and long-term stability. This is going to be a huge plant. They have 48 education and workforce training initiatives in 2023 that strengthens the foundation's future, trains up people. It seems like it would be a great job. And the incredible size of that plant. Of course, building electric-powered vehicles in the U.S. means, under current law, they will get the full benefit of any government discount. Will that continue in the future? We don't know. But certainly that is the reason for them building plants here. And it's impressive to see them investing that much money in the workforce in the U.S. And I think it's great news. I really do. And if you've ever been in some of these plants, I have, and it's weird. It's like, how can this all be enclosed space? But I've been in Kia plants, giant presses coming down and stamping out metal parts, and the long assembly line, and just, people riding bicycles and little electric carts around to get from one side of the plant to the other. It's pretty impressive. It really is. And, it's good news to see all that investment. So what do you think of that? I think it's great they're investing that kind of money in the U.S., $10 billion and probably more. So give us a comment on either our YouTube or our Facebook page, or our Cruise Control YouTube or Facebook page. Plenty more coming up in the second hour of Cruise Control, so please stick around for it. We'll talk about a lot of new vehicles introduced at the Chicago Auto Show and more. As I mentioned, don't forget to check out our YouTube page and our Facebook page. Time for me to say I'm Fred Staub. He's Les Jackson. We'll see you down the road.